Welcome everybody to Too Legit to Crit, a tabletop role-playing podcast made for people who treat Don't Split the Party as a suggestion rather than a rule. My name is Juan Santana, and joining me as always are my wonderful co-hosts, both Zoop and Misfit. Remember, if you like what we do and you want to see more of us, hit like, hit subscribe, do all that, because that's going to help get the word out there. Anyway, let's get to it. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, really good, really good. Apologies for the gap in recordings, but I had vacation time and I took full advantage of it.
You know, honestly speaking, good for you. Like, everyone should take their vacation time.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a place to go, like, just take the time. Especially if it's paid vacation, like, take it. Use it. Use your paid vacation.
Oh, yeah.
I miss paid vacation.
I don't know what that life is like. I've never had that life. But
as somebody who is a manager of other people, yes, use your paid vacation. Because if not, it gets to this time of year where you have to fucking use it, and it's harder for me to schedule around.
I mean, honestly,
all my vacation goes to cons.
That's so fair, though. I'm going to a con soon.
Ooh.
I'm going to be the special guest at a con, actually, here very soon. And that's super exciting.
Which con are you going to?
Give me a sec, I'll tell you. I don't remember.
Is Zoop going to be in the position of making more motorboating jokes?
No.
Motorboating jokes? I don't know. Are you planning on being at PAX East?
No, not this year. I'm planning on doing it next year because I'm much more confident that I can actually get a creator's badge.
Yeah. I am going to be on a panel, so I got a badge, which is cool, and also
That's
it's very
awesome.
close.
That's
what
fantastic.
Panel?
I mean,
is
no
it
matter
the same
what
panel
I was
with
told.
Fish?
No, it's not with Fish.
Oh, okay. I was very excited to see that they were also on a panel, and I was like,
yeah.
Not girl, sorry. My human.
So what panel are you on, Zoop?
The panel is, it's about making one-shots or short miniseries and, like, making it satisfying and, talking about, like, you know, creating an arc and, like, creating a way to make a one-shot or short miniseries, either in an AP or in a home game or in, like, a pop-up game, more satisfying.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Now, I have a question. What is your definition of a mini-series?
So I think for the purposes of this particular panel, it is 1 to 4. Or like 2 to 4.
Okay.
I think that's we're really containing it into just that many, because it's about, like, you know, it's also if, like, you wanted to play if someone is running, like, a pop-up game at a, you know, board game cafe type thing, and they have, like, maybe like 4 at most 4 things for people to come to or the like, but in general, like, for an AP, I would even call 8 or 12 a miniseries.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean,
I will be the special guest at Midwest Game Fest. Blah, 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 blah.
Nice.
Talking is hard.
Very cool.
I'm
Good
excited. It's my first being a special guest.
That's fantastic. As for me, I've got no convention plans, as always.
Convention Zero did get moved to, it's going to be Gen Con weekend this year.
Yes, I did see that. When is Gen Con again?
That is a good
Is that August?
I think so. It's usually in August.
Gen Con 2026. Let's see. Tell us when it is. It's going to be August 5th to August 8th.
Okay, cool. I might be able to do things for Con Zero then.
Cool.
Yeah, because I'm on vacation the following week, so.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I could potentially get something organized. Maybe run a little something for people.
A little something.
A little something. Maybe, I don't know. I'll give it some thought. Once we start finding what the time frames are and whatnot.
Run some Savage Lands.
So, should we talk about tabletop role-playing stuff today?
Yes.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
But
Yeah.
that's not what we're here for.
No, I think we're
We're
gonna
here to
go.
talk about beautiful men. I'm joking.
We did have that conversation.
Yeah, I was about to say, they're not joking.
We had a fully in-depth conversation about beautiful men,
Yeah.
and it was very in-depth.
I've been playing the Fallout system by Mobius.
What did you think of it?
I really like it, but Lord, if you're not a lucky roller or you just have dice that like to roll low, it hurts. It hurts bad. It hurts
that
so
sounds
bad.
fun.
It's a very unforgiving system, actually.
I struggled with it, to be honest. I
Really?
didn't mind it. I think I found there was too much dice roll. I found there was like too much because you take a shot, then you have to roll to see where on the body you hit, and then I found there was a lot of unnecessary steps personally, which I would just disregard.
That normally the storyteller and the player would work together. Like in D&D, you can roll and you can say to hit, and then you or the storyteller can like describe. That's why it's really weird when people are like, I mean, it's not really weird. I understand why, but when people like try to do called shots on specific parts of the body, it's like that's kind of, usually it's because they're trying to do something like cut off a hand instead of just like.
I played, so back in the 3.5 era, I played a winged elf for a one-shot game. It's like a bunch of friends were over. We were all just didn't know what to do. So I was like, fuck it, let's play some D&D. And I took a Vorpal whip as my main weapon. And that was one of the few characters where I'd be like, I am specifically trying to cut off their head.
Yeah.
Or I am specifically trying to remove their arm because my whip was Vorpal and that's literally what it did.
But
although like
think...
in the what do you call it, like the Star Wars D&D game, like the thing is that even if you have a lightsaber, it doesn't work the same way, right?
I think that's up to because like I play the Star Wars D20 game, and I play Amara Luca, and so she's like super crazy force user. I even took like throwing your lightsaber, so now she can just like force sling her lightsaber and decapitate people. But you really only get that kind of critical when you roll a critical. And I have extended criticals, so I have 18, 19, or 20 for my criticals. But outside of that, yeah, it's doesn't work how you would expect a lightsaber to work.
Right.
I mean, I always found that called shots in stuff like Pathfinder and D&D, I think they were just pointless because there is no codified mechanics to back them up. Whereas in Savage Worlds, there is a mechanical side to it. And in other systems, even in as much as I disliked the way they get around it, the Fallout system does provide that. I think most of the Modiphius 2D.
They all have some sort of level. Like I made a cheat sheet. So like this is your combat die, like how much damage you do. This is the only one where I'm like, the combat die effectiveness is the only one that I have an issue with, because if you roll a 2 or a 4, or not a 2, a 3 and a 4, nothing happens, and that feels horrible. It's like, no, how fucking dare you? But like the D20 rolling where their hit is always really fun. I like it, honestly speaking. I know it is extra dice rolling, but as a person who plays systems where I don't actually roll a lot of dice, it feels nice to roll a handful of like D6s.
Yeah.
Like most of the storyteller systems, like anything in the World of Darkness, you don't actually roll a lot of die. Like when you do roll, you roll like clusters of them, but you don't roll often.
Yeah, it's finding the balance for me. It's finding I'm rolling too much, I'm not rolling enough. Especially as a GM, because it just gets to the point where you just get tired of rolling so much. But then you play something like Numenera, which is designed so the GM never rolls a dice, and you sat there kind of going, I want to roll something.
I mean, Powered by the Apocalypse, the GM also doesn't roll the dice
very much.
But one thing with Powered by the Apocalypse that I've noticed, at least with the people that I play with, is there is still a deficit of dice rolling.
Mm-hmm.
The games offer a lot of ways for you to roll dice, and oftentimes that's really helpful because that is usually how you progress, like how you advance. But I've noticed, and I don't know if it's because a lot of times it's people coming from D&D, and so when they're not given the chance to say like roll insight or roll investigation, they kind of lose how to use the roles that you do have.
Yes. 100%. Oh my gosh, yes.
And it obviously depends on the GM. Like, some GMs are really good at integrating roles, and some GMs really prefer like the role play aspect.
Yeah.
But my issue is then it's harder for your character to progress.
And I think it's also, a lot of times the roles do support the role play.
Yeah.
They help kind of guide your character in a direction, and they kind of help guide the story in a direction which is somewhat unpredictable, which is the nature of the dice rolls. So I think they are important. I think for me, it's finding the balance.
For me, one of the most important things about running a Powered by the Apocalypse game as the storyteller is to know what your players' playbook moves are so that they can use them. Because, like, I've played several Masks games, and I have found that my playbook moves never come into play. I'm like, why do I have, like, unless you're the Nova and you roll to burn and you can use your burns in combat, a lot of the skills are not necessarily about combat. They're about like creeping around or like gathering information or a lot of stuff. And so I feel like for any GM who does PBTA, I deeply encourage you to have a list of your players' playbook moves somewhere on your table as you're running it, and give them chances to use those playbook moves.
When I was running Monster of the Week, I had a copy of I printed out and cut out copies of all of my players' playbooks.
Yes, exactly.
And it helped a bunch because I could be like, okay, well, there's a couple of you in this party that could like do this. That's up to you to figure it out. I'm not going to like handhold you and tell you what you should be rolling, because I have that level of expectation that like my players know what they would like to do, and that they know their characters well enough to know what skills would be appropriate where. But I definitely would be able to like look at it and be like, okay, well, I've designed this for at least two of you, and if you're not going to take the bait, that's on you.
Yeah. When I ran American Demigods, which is a mini series, 4 episodes that you can listen to on Game Master Monday, I had everybody's.
Sorry, that was very smooth. Just want to kind of point that out.
Oh, yeah,
you can listen on Game Master Monday.
That was like a level of professionalism that we are not accustomed to on this show. That was very good, very good. Please, don't mind me and carry on.
Very proud of this series. I think that my players did an amazing job, and we tried to save democracy. Whether it succeeded or not, you can definitely listen and find out. But when I was running it, I had each of their playbooks printed out, marked whatever they gained. As they were going along, they told me, okay, I have like leveled up and I've gained this, and I would add it to the sheet. And the demigods thing has a whole bunch of ways that you can gain threads, is the advancement thing, and you can spend threads as well. Like, the advancement mechanic is not just for leveling up, it can also be used in gameplay to give you like a +1 or things like that. And so like I had each of theirs so that like if they did something that I was like, this would give you a thread, I could point that out to them and if a character was describing something that they wanted to do, I was like, oh, that falls into this particular play. Is that what you would like to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my knowledge of Monster of the Week, Powered by the Apocalypse games in general is quite lacking. I've only really played a couple of sessions of Monster of the Week.
Them fun. It's definitely in my, like, if I'm going to run something, it tends to be what I gravitate towards because it's sort of loose. I don't have to have like a hardcore grasp on the rules like you do with like Pathfinder or D&D, or like a wholly in-depth story like you need with like Vampire or something like that. So it's a nice middle ground where I can tell sort of like we're gonna laugh and I might make you cry, but like we're definitely gonna laugh.
I have played like Powered by the Apocalypse games, not very often, but when I do, kind of, when I'm trying to introduce my kids to role playing games, we normally gravitate towards Powered by the Apocalypse games. Whether it's Avatar or what was the other one, Chasing Adventure was quite a good one because that kind of fulfilled the fantasy.
I am writing. And by writing, I mean the idea is in my head and I have a list of people to contact and we will do it. But I am writing an ant-based Powered by the Apocalypse game.
Okay.
That's fun.
Where I have your concept. 5 stats already determined. And then there will be playbooks for basically like the part you play in a colony. So like
a worker...
a soldier, a queen, soldier, all of that, nursery person. But it's a 2 playbook system. So the other playbook will be the type of ant. Are you a fire ant? Are you a carpenter ant?
Yeah.
Are you, I forget, I had a whole list of ants at one point.
Like a leaf cutter.
Yeah, a leaf cutter ant. And my plan is actually to write 2 ant specialists, or like the scientists who study specifically ants, and there is a term for it that I don't remember right now, but my plan is to, like, I literally typed in like well-known ant scientists, and my plan is to email them and be like, sorry, this is super weird. I do this thing called tabletop role-playing games. If you've heard of D&D, it's that kind of thing. And also, please tell me what your favorite kind of ant is and what's special about them.
Apparently it's a myrmecologist.
Yes.
Interesting.
I've learned something today. But on that topic, check out Blades in the Dark.
Okay.
Check out Blades in the Dark, because what they do, that the system for Blades in the Dark works as, you have your character, but your character is part of something. Your character is part of a gang. So everybody has their individual character sheet, but then you have a shared character sheet, which in Blades in the Dark is the crew. And you can spend like experience and stuff to level that up as you level up your character as well. So
yeah, so you're saying because I was thinking like each person could be a different type of ant, and obviously it's a fantasy ant colony where leafcutter ants hang out with carpenter ants, but yeah, there is a way to do it, Blades in the Dark, where you choose like your type of team.
Yeah, so like in Blades in the Dark, are you a bunch of smugglers? Are you assassins? Are you, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
You could potentially do it still Powered by the Apocalypse, but add that extra element of, okay, so you are fire ants, you are this type of ant, and the benefits you gain from growing your colony affect everybody equally.
That's cool.
That is a good idea.
Hey, I have them every now and again.
So yeah, when I release ants, I will let you know. So you can play as an ant.
I want to play as an ant. I definitely want to play as an ant. But so I did have a question coming into this tonight, because both of you are very much in the sort of sphere of actual plays, and we've already kind of discussed that actual plays tend to be a lot more roleplay heavy. They tend to be a lot more focused on creating a story and creating a visual, leaning more on that side of things as opposed to the mechanical side of things. So what tips would you give somebody in order to kind of improve or refine their roleplay?
So it's funny. I have been working on the framework for a workshop, like a whole roleplay like workshop, because roleplay is such a thing for me. Like it deep down in my core, it makes me super happy to really fully step into someone else's shoes for a bit. And like sometimes I go so far as like I will step into my character's shoes, and like there are bits and pieces that I forget what I say sometimes in recordings. So like my character for the mage game, she said a line about, I don't need them to be morally correct, I need them to have deep pockets. I do not remember saying this at all. I clearly said it because it is in the recording, but like I personally don't remember saying that. But that is my character is a dancer. She's a burlesque dancer. She's kind of a stripper. She runs, an OnlyFans site. And at the time she was like, I really need money to be able to GTFO. Like I have to go disappear. And it's things like that. It's little itty bitty details like that make a character feel real, that feel grounded in whatever reality that they are in. So my biggest tip is think about your character and the world that they exist in, and how their background experiences affect their mannerisms, how they speak is really important. I'm not talking just like a character voice. I'm talking like my character Sam for the Fallout game. They talk kind of with a southern twang. Like, yeah, they're a ghoul, but they talk like with a southern twang because they're from the South. And when they speak, they use a lot of southern slang terms like folk, posse. And that is one really key thing that you can do to take your role play from here to like here, is thinking about the mannerisms that your character would display. Are they bold? Are they scared? Are they shy? Are they confident? Think about those things, and think about how their upbringing would affect their speech. Are my two really, really big things to take your role play from like here to here.
So, but before we take it from here to here, let's take it from here to here.
Here.
Like, yeah, like
the other thing with that is just doing it. Like I know that sounds counterintuitive because everyone's like, well, that's such your simple answer. But like, no, you really just kind of have to like,
oh yeah,
do it.
As you role play more, it becomes easier. You're giving advanced advice. Let's start with like the basics of like, how do you role play? So like when you start building your character, what is the first thing
for
that
me?
For both of you, when you start building
personality. I start with personality.
So do you choose 3 words? Do you how do you decide personality?
Characters on TV.
So you choose
That's
like a character on TV that you're like, I'm mimicking this character.
Not necessarily mimicking, but like I'll see a character on TV and kind of go, that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting to play.
So like my character for the Fallout game, Sam, is a mix between Zoe from Firefly and Tallahassee from Zombieland.
Okay.
And I kind of took the mannerisms Zoe has, where she's quiet and kind of stands back and is reserved. But in combat scenarios, they're much more like Tallahassee I used my shotgun as a baseball bat because I couldn't reload in time, but I needed to do something. So I flipped the shotgun around and used it as a baseball bat.
Yeah.
And that is a very Tallahassee thing to do.
So what I'm hearing as a like starting piece of advice is take the media that you enjoy and spend some time, like if you like really want to get a sense for role play, take the characters that you find interesting and maybe spend some time figuring out like their character traits. Like, how do they act in like certain situations, and like see if you can write it down and get a sense of who that character is, because they are written by people who have spent a lot of time like thinking about making characterization and the like. So that is a way that you can kind of start doing things. Or even if you are not like a huge media consumption person, choose people in your life. And like, how would your friend Maggie respond in X situation and Y situation? And if you don't know that, like, start people watching.
Yeah, a lot of it, that's why I start with personality, because personality is going to tell you how they're going to act, what mannerisms they're going to have, how they're going to interact with the rest of the world. Like, for example, I would not say that Sam is a confident character.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're confident in that they know that they can survive, but when it comes to interacting with other people, not at all. So like I have stumbled across words multiple times with them. Like someone tried to compliment their beautiful irradiated glowing skin. They're cool. They're not pretty. And Sam was like, "Well, what? Have you looked at me? What?" And just sort of walked off because they didn't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think finding your character, whether it's like drawing from media or from experiences, having that sort of, what would my character react like? Well, what would their
Be
default sort of setting be? That is where I normally start.
Biggest thing is like, how would my character react? Are they confident? Are they shy? Are they capable? Are they gullible? Are they naive? Because I do believe gullible and naive are very different things. And once you have that down, everything else just kind of falls around it, like falls into place around it. It's like getting the border of a puzzle.
Yeah. So maybe one thing that we can look for off of time is maybe like a list of personality traits, like gullible, like naive, that separates them out a little bit, and provide that on wherever we share things, just as something to look at to help like choose things from. I definitely, so a character that I am playing in something that's coming out soon is a mix of my maternal grandfather and Clark Kent. Okay. Not Superman, but Clark Kent.
So the awkwardness, the lack of social skills from Clark Kent.
More than that, like, even because I think even as Clark Kent, he has leadership skills. Like he doesn't not become like. Actually, that's a good thing. I probably would need to figure out if it's more Superman or more Clark Kent, but like,
because it all does definitely depends on what version of Clark Kent you kind of aim for.
But so in terms of like, it's especially in terms of his desire to do to do good, to protect.
Okay, so this sounds like the Smallville version of Clark Kent.
It does.
Possibly, yeah. And then he's got my grandfather's like intelligence and drive. And my grandfather was a civil engineer who specifically worked on earthquakes, like worked on like making earthquake safe buildings, bridges, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just like extremely talented, gifted, driven, back in whatever these or something like that. 60s, long time ago. He traveled from India, like before this was a thing that people regularly did. He traveled from India to the US to do his PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So this was like a time when not even like people were doing PhDs, but he traveled all the way from India to the US to do his PhD and then went back home to make a difference at home. And so thinking about all of that, but then, I've only ever seen him in grandfather mode.
Yeah.
So, like, pulling from other sources as well to kind of make a personality. But included in that personality is the past as well. So I think that's the next thing that you can, like, look at is, like, after personality, do you think about, like, quote unquote backstory or main events in their life?
I definitely think more like main events and where they're at currently and how they got to that point. So, like, if your character's not an adventurer and they're being flung into adventure, how are they going to handle that?
Mm.
And if you just say, well, they're luckety and skippity and carefree, then okay, but they can't stay like that forever. Is this one of those characters? So, like, I've done this. I did this with Aster. Aster had her backstory. Like, she was like a pretty recent backstory. Like, she was divorced, blew up a building, and then ran.
We've all been kids. It's fine. We've
Yeah.
all been
It's
there.
fine.
We've all blown up
She's
the
like
odd
28.
building.
It's fine. But that's another thing. Let's get into age in a second. I went into that story like, here is the very recent 3-year recent back history because I don't feel like I needed anything beyond that. I was like, so here's my super recent back history. Everything else, I want the story to dictate. All of my reactions, I want the story to dictate. And that is fine if you want to play a character like that. I will be the first person to tell you I've done it several times with different characters across multiple platform like systems. And it's fun. It's really fun. It's a little traumatic, man, babies. It's a little traumatic. You might get a little hurt, and that's okay. But it's really fun. And I do recommend everyone try it at least once. But when you do that, you need to be very direct with your storyteller, GM, game runner, whatever. You need to be upfront, being like, I want my character to learn and evolve through this story. I want them to change through this story because this is the present, and I want to focus on the present, not their past or anything like that. And if you're not upfront about it, it kind of gets stuck in the dirt. And like, because I've also had characters like that where I was like, I want to play like this. I want to play where the story dictates what I'm going to do and the decisions I'm going to make and the goals I'm going to set for my character versus like me coming in with preset goals, because I've done that too. And in doing that, again, if you're not upfront with your GM about it, like, you'll get stuck in the mud because you're not giving them the meat and potatoes that they need to make the soup.
So once you've kind of got an idea for your character and once you've kind of got your character's personality down, what tips do you have of kind of bringing that out at the table?
So one of the things Misfit said, I think, is it was really good, but then they dropped into a character voice, and I was like, well, shit, I can't do like a Southern character voice. I have heard that one of the things that you can do is, and this is good for GM too, to make different characters seem alive, is like as you're speaking, think about the different things that make up someone's speech pattern. So one is vocabulary. And, that might require some, like, for somebody who doesn't have, like, a really extraordinary vocabulary, or on the other hand, someone whose vocabulary is so large that they're like used to saying cromulent or something like that, and like needing to bring it back down to basics. Like, that might take a little work, but vocabulary is one thing. Does your person talk a lot in similes, or do they talk a lot in hypotheticals, or do they
Mhm.
talk, very more grounded? Are they more direct, or do they have the tendency to talk kind of around the problem? How often do they stumble in their speech? How much and what is their filler word? Is their filler word like? Is their filler word is their filler word, there's a whole bunch of filler words that you could choose,
Mhm.
and how often do they have filler words? And then how quickly do they speak, or how slowly do they speak? And, do they speak with, this goes back to the personality traits, confidence or hesitation, determination? Do they speak like what they know is right, or do they speak like, they're not so sure and they're asking a question a lot of times? So there's a lot of different ways that, even if you don't have accents, you can differentiate your characters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I mean, our
Like
speech is made up of so many different components, even
my
speaking slightly slower. And what I would recommend for someone to kind of get started is to, at first, if it's your first character, or even if it's your 10th character and you want to become more comfortable, is pick one trait. Pick
Mhm.
one trait that is different to you,
I
because
also tell
you
people to
will.
pick a grounding trait.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah.
Like, so Aster picks at the sides of her nails,
Yeah.
which is like a nervous tick, but it for her, it's a grounding trait.
Mm.
It's gives her something to do with her hands, and that is important, especially because like she's my hyper autistic character.
But yeah, I like that. I do like having a grounding trait, and just having something that when you do kind of veer off ever so slightly, just have something to do, like in your case, picking at your nails, to kind
Mhm.
of bring you back into the character. That's a really, really good tip.
Uh,
There is one thing based on saying, like, oh, she's my hyper autistic character. At the end of the day, you can use that terminology, like, oh, she's very autistic, or she's very OCD, or she's, got a bipolar thing going on. But don't, when you're creating the character, don't come at it from like a what is it called? A diagnosis
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Come at it from like symptoms.
Well, so like the reason Aster is autistic is because like I'm autistic, and
Right.
I wanted to play a character and show a character that was autistic, and especially from like a vampire's perspective.
But I bet you weren't like, oh, I'm just going to play an autistic. I bet you thought like very carefully about what are her traits
Mhm.
that
Like I
read as
took
autistic.
yeah, I took my higher autistic, like the manic need to write everything down,
Mhm.
and I gave her that. The manic need to, hyper focus on a specific subject for over an extended period of time. Like, and I'm sure you understand this, Zope, as like someone who works in the science fields, doing light casual research.
Yeah.
That's something that she does as well. So it's like I cherry picked which of my mannerisms scream autism, and I gave them to her, and I kind of like cranked the volume up on it to a 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my upcoming character, he didn't start with OCD, but he ended up with OCD. Um
How does that manifest?
So, right. So, but the question is, how did it manifest? Because OCD manifests in a lot of different ways, right? So, like, there is especially contamination OCD, there is religious OCD, there are so many different types of OCD. So, instead of saying he has OCD, what I started describing is that he is always in preparedness mode. He's looking around and he's seeing what could go wrong at any minute. He notices, he gets into an elevator and he sees that the elevator hasn't been inspected in 2 years. And now he is seeing what happens when the elevator fails. And so he is stopping people from getting in the elevator and trying to get somebody to come, inspect the elevator. And if he can't find somebody to do that, he learns how to do it himself because he's also a civil engineer. So he learns how to do that himself so that he can make sure it's safe. So he's constantly on the look. Where's that crack? Is that crack something that could expand further and flood the city? Like, constantly, like, is that being properly soldered, or like, could that come down at any point? So I described like this preparedness, this hyper preparedness thing, and this like picturing of things that could go wrong when he sees something that isn't, built to his standards. And I was describing it to my GM, and he was like, so OCD. I was like, oh, so you have OCD? And I was like, well, yes, I do, but also my character does.
I think it's fun. I'm one of those people. So like, on the opposite end of, finding characters in media that you really like and modeling their personality after that, take a personality trait that you have that you're kind of like about, that gives you a little bit of a cringe, and amplify it. It's radical acceptance. It will help you accept that part of yourself, because you're going to see what your character does and you're going to be like, well, I'm not that bad.
I mean, these are all good tips. So, because we talked about grounding, I really liked that idea of having a grounding sort of element to your character to be able to kind of bring you back if you ever kind of stray too far. So how much does this is what my character would do? How much of that is valid before it becomes problematic?
It is valid as long as, first of all, I think communication with your GM and fellow players is really important. Like, you check in. If you are going to make a character with a lot of trauma that they're working through, that means that they're not always going to be a team player, communicate that beforehand and make sure that the other players that you're playing with are the type that can deal with that. Because there are times when, you will be playing with players, like especially in a home game, where they're not really going to have patience for that. Know the people that you're playing with, know your GM. Think where it's what my character would do becomes a problem is when it is something that derails the entire story, the entire game, with no long-term benefit to the characters, to the story. If you're like, I'm just going to go off on my own and do this because that's what I would do, and at the end of it, your character isn't going to learn a lesson, and it's not something that's agreed upon with the GM. Like, and you also need to listen to the GM. If you're like, my character's going to go off on their own, and your GM's like, that's a bad idea. Like, maybe that's the time to listen.
I think
never had a GM tell me that's a bad idea. I've been like, oh, you want to go do that? Okay.
But I think Zoop has actually kind of hit it on the head. I think that we are role playing, we are reacting to a world in the mind space of our characters, but I think it becomes a problem with the whole this is what my character would do, is when you remove the potential consequence. So yeah, a rogue is a rogue is a thief, but they're not an idiot. They're not going to necessarily immediately want to steal from the party. Even if it's what their character do. Yeah, it's what their character would do if consequence wasn't a thing. But it is.
At that point, so I play with some pretty brutal GMs. I'm not gonna lie. I play with GMs who are like, okay, you want to do that? Sure. But I also play with GMs who at session 0 will be like, actions have consequences at this table. If you do something stupid, guess what? You're gonna deal with it.
Yeah.
So I play with some pretty rough GMs, but I can handle that. If you can't, as a player, and this is me, my audience, my lovelies, if you can't handle a GM and a storyline that's going to be that rough on you, do not play in that game.
And that, I think we talked about this in a previous session as well, that like it's important for the GM, if your player is clearly not getting something that their character would know, just double, check in.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Can you give me an example?
Okay, as an example, I think Zoop, when we actually discussed it in the episode, her character had an idea we're going to go travel to this island. We're going to kind of make this sort of
alliance with these people.
But she did that unaware that it was common knowledge within that world that these people were cannibals.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
At that point, I feel like the GM should just be like, hey, they're cannibals. This isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And like, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. Like, if you're not getting it as a player and it is absolutely something your character would get, I don't feel like it's irresponsible of a GM to be like, hold on, y'all. Like, you would know that they're cannibals and this is a really bad idea. If you want to do it, by all means, boo-boo, go ahead and do it. But just know.
Just like be aware, like, so that's the thing. Like, my character would have known how, it's not just them being cannibals. It was like a whole bunch of stuff, but my character would know exactly how repulsive this group is and how if you were to get their help on something, you can't get anybody else's help.
Yeah. But it's not.
But I was not aware of that.
But it could also be a lot more subtle as well. Like, we all have had that experience outside of gaming where we've subconsciously had a feeling that something's not a great idea. And as a GM, you can kind of provide that to your players. It's like, okay, so as an FBI agent, you're in this place. Maybe discharging your weapon isn't the best idea.
Like, if you're, especially like, let's say you're in space, right? You're on a spaceship and your players are not well versed in science fiction and the like, or they're not thinking and they're like, yes, I want to shoot this pistol. And, the character would know there is a high likelihood that is going to punch through into space and cause a problem, but the player may not realize it at that moment. Or a great example that I heard on another podcast was these characters entered into a room and they had a map and there were 2 circles in the middle, and the GM never said those are elevators, which the characters looking at the elevators would know that they're elevators. The players didn't know that because it wasn't explicitly stated those are elevators. And they ended up doing something weird to try to get up to the next floor because they didn't realize that they could just use the elevators.
Yeah, I'm all for GMs punishing stupid players, but I think there has to be a level playing field of knowledge.
Oh, for sure.
Where it's like, your character probably, as a trained military combatant, wouldn't immediately run into a darkened room where he has no idea what there is there.
Well, like, so in the Fallout game, Sam's a trader. So they loot a lot. They loot a lot. We opened a door and you could hear the whirring of a turret like spinning and warming up. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know where this turret is. And no one wanted to go into this room because we all heard it. And I was like, I'm gonna throw a boot in there. I just collected these boots. They're brand new boots. They're good boots. I don't want to do this, but I'm going to because we need to figure out exactly how long it takes for this turret to fire and where it is in the room. So I threw a boot and I lost my boot and I'm real mad about it. Like, I'm real upset. That was a perfectly good pair of boots.
Yeah, so sometimes like you can be like, would my character do this? I just got this really good pair of boots and I am a trader and I ferociously, I've experienced a lot of lack of things in my life. So I furiously hoard everything that I get. And you can still say, okay, but in this situation, I do have control over this character and I am still going to make the choice to throw the boot.
Yes, absolutely. Like, it was literally the boot or a body. And I didn't want it to be a body. I felt like in that instance, Sam did the calculation of like, you're a doctor, you're a fighter, I can handle radiation. All right, let's throw the inanimate object. Like, yeah, okay, this sucks. I'm losing, a valuable sale item, but it's better than losing a life or a limb.
So I think we've had a pretty good discussion about that, and I think, once again, that's another TCRPG problem solved. That's it. So you're welcome, world. We're just solving these problems one after the other. So next week, what we're going to do, we're going to carry on the topic of roleplay, but we are going to talk about
how to talk about character bleed.
We will talk about that, but first we'll talk about how to get characters to...
Yeah, how to encourage roleplay.
Yeah.
How to encourage roleplay at the table, but yeah, we need to write down the character bleed thing. I like that. Okay. We will definitely make a note of that.
That's a big, important one because, like, getting into deep roleplay is great and all, but what do you do when you have all of those leftover feelings?
That's definite. Okay, so you guys want to kind of promote anything while we're here? You want to get people on board with anything? You already said Game Master Monday professionally, so I'm looking at you, Zoop. You need to start.
My name is Zoop. My mom calls me Supriya. You can find me as Zoop Machine on all the socials. Follow me, because sometimes I ask interesting questions or say really stupid things, And I love interacting with people. And I have a card that hasn't been updated in over a year, so don't worry about it. And also follow Convention Zero for information about when we run during Gen Con.
Fantastic. Misfit.
Hey, I am Misfit Playland, literally everywhere, all on the socials. I, as per usual, on Wednesdays, I have Vampire with No Name, new episodes every week. We are getting close to some of my favorite character moments that I've had. One not so favorite moment, but most of them are my favorite. Like, most of them are awesome. So go ahead, give that a listen. It's an excellent show. If I'm being honest and unbiased, my biased opinion is you should listen to it because you're missing out. My unbiased opinion is I think it's an excellent show and we've put a lot of time and effort into it. I am also, you can find me on The Old Ways, playing in their Mage the Great Beyond game. I have 2 episodes out now. It comes out every other week, so stay in touch with the socials because I do promote it on there. And I've got Fallout coming out soon, and a bunch of other projects in the works that I cannot talk about.
All right. As for me, I've got no projects in the works. I'm Natural Juan. You can find me on most of the social media sites. If you do like what we do and you want to follow us, like I said at the top of the show, give us a like, give us a subscribe. It just kind of helps keeps the lights on around here. Other than that, if you want to get in touch with me, you can find me at Natural Juan on most of the social medias, and I will get back to you at some point. I make no promises, though. I want to thank my two wonderful co-hosts for joining me this evening. It's been fantastic chatting to them. I also want to thank the Dungeon Maestro for the use of our theme tune, all that jazz. Check out their stuff over on YouTube. It is top quality. And most importantly of all, I want to thank everyone who's spent time out of their busy day, listen to us waffle on about tabletop role-playing games. Thank you very much, and good night.